fear, bloodshed, rape, devastation, genocide. In 2004, the United Nations declared Darfur the world's greatest humanitarian crisis. In 2005, President George W. Bush insisted that the killings in Darfur indicate genocide, separating from the UN, who was hesitant in using the term to describe the tragedies occurring in the region.
Everybody always, when they see Africans, is burnings. They always consider that these are the tribal conflicts. What happened in Sudan is not a tribal conflicts. The government of Sudan slaughtered 3.5 million Southern Sudanese Africans. This is not a tribal conflict. We're talking about innocent people being killed by the government.
According to the United Nations, the conflict has claimed the lives of as many as 200,000 people. However, several humanitarian activist groups estimate that the actual number of lives taken is closer to 400,000. Though some international sources may try to devalue the genocide as a simple tribal conflict, there are a number of reasons to why this issue continues to persist.
It is by design that the government going after the blacks, Africans in that part of the world, because they have a mission of transforming and changing Sudan into Arabization, where everybody have to become an Arab.
And it is that same Sudanese government, commanded by Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, who has been speculated for carrying out an ethnic cleansing to where the government is oppressing black Africans in favor of Arab Africans.
I'm a Sudanese. I'm involved because I was a victim. I survived the genocide that took place in southern Sudan. My friend was killed before my own eyes, but I didn't survive being taken to the slavery.
Simon Deng, a former Sudanese slave and international human rights activist, travels around the world to enlighten those who are still in the dark about Darfur. Deng is shown here demonstrating along the side of the Darfur Coalition in San Francisco with the expectation of influencing the Chinese government to get involved in ending the genocide in Darfur. With the Chinese government cited for being Sudan's closest economic and political partner, humanitarian activists around the globe feel they have more influence to pressure the Sudanese government.
China, the way it is, by being part of genociders in Sudan, we should tell the China, do the right things so that we will celebrate the Olympics as a place to be for the world to see how beautiful is China. But China today is not beautiful because China, their hand full of blood.
Up until now, China has tried to remain neutral to the situation. However, according to the New York Times, China has expressed grave concerns to the Sudanese government about the recent violence in western Darfur and is actively working to resolve delays in establishing an international peacekeeping force. Though it appears as if China has assumed a firm stance against the genocide in Darfur, they still feel that activists were wrong to link the strife in Darfur to the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing.
I think the Chinese people respect the Africans enough to not go in and say, well, we're going to tell you how to run your country and push you around like the rich white guys do. That's not their style. What the Chinese are consistent. They say, we don't think that other countries ought to interfere in the internal affairs of China, and all things considered, with some glaring exceptions, we don't interfere into the internal affairs of other countries.
To truly understand the dilemma in Darfur, one only needs to explore the origins of an issue that has all too been misunderstood.
Thousands or millions of children involved in what they call child soldier. They could not even remember their own names, but they carry guns. I wish I able to go and collect all the weapons and look at where they were manufactured. I wish I could do that.
I don't think that there's anybody who says that what's going on in Darfur is good. I think that more people, or the balance of people, virtually anywhere you go, would say the tragedies, the atrocities, the assassinations that are taking place Rapes in Darfur ought to be ended. The question is how? And who's supposed to do it?
The question of who should be responsible for regulating the atrocities in Darfur has people calling for the United States and the United Nations to play a more important role in this social dilemma.
I think this humanitarian phase of this situation of refugees, it needs to be re-examined. I think the United Nations, the United States, the European Union, and all the developed and powerful countries in this world should look at this, re-examine.
There is no consensus about what to do about Darfur, and God knows any number of other issues around the world.
Despite the fact that there may be no consensus to remedy this crisis, there is an agreement that the violence in Darfur has led to 2.5 million people displaced from their destroyed villages.
And I'm very concerned about the ongoing conflict in the entire continent in Africa. And so what I do in San Francisco is that I'm involved in several organizations like the San Francisco Bay Area Darfur Coalition, as in other African countries, are basically trying to address the economic development issues in Africa, the political issues.
When are we going to say enough is enough? And let's get involved and be the voice and stop the genocide, because we don't want another Rwanda, knowing that everybody was terrified. We don't want another Cambodia. Everybody was terrified. And most important, we don't want another Holocaust in which that everybody were terrified. And it's going to be if all of us are not involved.